Hi there. I'd like to show my setup for sewing the star blocks together. As I do so, I'd like to point out a couple things that you probably would like to keep in mind as you make your star blocks. First of all, I did a lot of pre-cutting just to save me so that I could, show and make some videos along the way and be prepared for the sew along. And so as I cut, I had all my fabrics up on the table at one time. And actually, I have already pre-cut all of my fabrics that I will need for all 64 star blocks and 64 of the unequal 9 patches. When I did that, I was making my combinations of what I thought looked good together. And so I went ahead and put them in baggies so that they would be ready to go. So as we are sewing, if you're doing the sew along and you're making your 8 blocks like I came up with and suggested for the sew along, actually you can make ever how many and speed ahead. That's perfectly fine. I love to speed ahead a lot of times too, but then I know some of us have a lot of sew alongs that we're doing or a lot of other block of the months and things, and so we don't make a whole quilt at one sitting, or we get bored with it. And these are a lot of the same blocks, yes, different fabrics to keep things interesting, but we don't want boredom certainly to set into our sewing. So anyway, I pulled out eight of my baggies for my star blocks. I pulled out 8 design boards, and so it's very easy for me to get these all set up here, and I can bring them right to my machine and have them sitting right next to my machine as I sew and make my blocks. I love to do as much chain piecing as I can. It's much faster for me with the lots less stopping and starting. And I am sewing on a juki, which is really good about the starting and stopping. I do not need to use leaders and enders with my juki sewing. I'm sure many of you do use the leaders and enders. So when I chain sew, I just feel like, we don't have that problem of those threads bunching up and having to feed that extra little piece of fabric through as we are sewing. So I like to be just kind of prepared at my machine with that. As I take my fabrics out of the bag that I've already put together, I go ahead and I lay them out on my design board, pretty much how I'm going to be sewing it together. So I have my corner blocks here. My ones in between here are going to be the ones that make the star points. Here I have laid, just for the simplicity of chain piecing, I've laid all 4 of those in a row that I'm going to be making the star points on. And then down here at the bottom, I just kind of tucked out of the way my center square, and then these are the 4 extra smaller squares that's going to be used to make my star points. As the directions show on page 5 for making the star block, it suggests that we start with putting a corner connector in each of the lower left-hand corners. And let me talk about why for that. Instead of just placing them willy-nilly and letting them fall where they may fall, I like to kind of plan it out, and I'm going to show you and tell you why. When you look at your directions, you'll see that as you place those star points, if you do all 4 of them the same, it's going to come out with the same one on top, and the same one always going to be on the underneath side. So when we make and put our block together, you're always going to get, like the way I did it here on this one, I ended up putting my left one first, putting my right one second. And so you can see, and I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but my right one is over top of my left one. And it comes out, no matter which way I turn this, they are all going to be the same. I just think it makes it a little neater in the end. Again, it really doesn't matter if the quilt pleats are going to get up that close and examine. I say go for it with the with the place, but yet I think that as I work, I like to do the best I can, and so the best I can means trying to keep a few things in mind as I do my piecing. So when I do this, when I am laying this out, these are all non-directional fabrics, so it makes no difference as I lay them down here which way I turn my star piece. It's all, they're just random, and it's going to look the same same either way. You really can't tell the difference. Same here. So very easy to do and to lay out and not have to, anything to have to think about. However, when I did this one, I had chose to do my corner squares all perpendicular, vertical, and so I wanted all of my other ones to also run in the same direction. And so as I put my two going this way in, there's no problem because they're going to be running up and down as I make my start points in the lower left corner, lower right corner. It all comes out the same. But when I place these two, I need to remember, if I want them to be all perpendicular, that I need to lay my background squares opposite how I have my corner squares laid. Because when we sew this, I'm sewing the first one on the left-hand corner, so this is going to press down, trim up and all that, and then I lay my second one on the right-hand side, and it's going to get sewed this way, so the right's over the left. So when I turn it then to go sew into my block, you can see that my corners, my background square is going to be running vertically. So that's the only thing to keep in mind when you are sewing your background squares. The same kind of works with if these squares happen to have a pattern to them, whereas this particular print that I'm using here did not. This one does not. They're all just random, so I can put it any which way. But when you are doing your, pretend that this does have a pattern to it, a one-way design, you would want to, on two of them, flip them the opposite way so that when they go into the, and you just kind of look to see, and I just sort of play with it so that I can get the visual and you know, kind of lay it there and see, okay, which way is that going? Is that going, you know, the correct way, or do I need to turn it and to get it going another way? I just kind of do a little pretend fold on it. So yes, it goes a lot faster if you have all non-directional fabrics, but if you're like me, you like to use some directional fabrics because they're cute as well. So so that's just what I'm showing here. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show is that in the directions, somehow I got a little boo-boo that I don't want to get you confused on. When I made my little diagram, you know, we sewed the left, so the right goes over top of the left in my final picture, such as what I have here. The left's under the bottom because it's sewed first, the right's over top. If you look here, you're seeing the opposite. It doesn't matter. And I did not mean to draw the diagram reversed from how I wrote the directions. So it is kind of a goof on my part. My apologies for that. But you will notice that they're all the same. So left over the right, left over the right. If you move it around, left over the right, left over the right. So just whichever way you start, like if you start with this one in the bottom right corner, the other one's going to go into the bottom left corner. So it doesn't matter if you have a preference, right-handed, left-handed, if one seems to be easier for you than the other one, no problem. Just remember that once you sew these four, you're going to then take them and always look, especially with the ones that are with these with the one-way designs, with the directional designs. You want to always get them laid back out correctly so that you put the second one on the correct corner. So, you know, but if you have this one all pressed here, you know, just remember that the next one would be going on the right corner away from it. So, you know, if I put it over there, it's going to be a new left corner, so that would not come out, so that they would all be consistent from one block to the next and even within the block. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to do a little sewing here, showing how I go about pressing and trimming and all of those good things too, but first things first. And so wanted to explain those directions and just point out that because I made a set of blocks already and I forgot what I was doing. And so I got some going every which ways. So don't be like me. Be more consistent and strive for perfection. Not that we need perfection or have to have it, but I think that as a quilter, sometimes it's just nice that we like to be able to look at it and really make ourselves smile. Have a good day and happy stitching.